I'm pleased to be joined by John Esmerado of the Union County Prosecutor's Office, Assistant Prosecutor. Welcome again, John.
Thank you, Mayor. Good to be here.
And Ms. Faye Zeeland, the Executive Director of the Age Resource Foundation for Children and St. Clair's Home for Children, Elizabeth. Faye, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
First of all, John, we'll start with you. The Run for Children has been something we've been doing here in the city, and you've been active in it numerous years. Tell us what it is.
Mayor, the run, as you know, for 12 years, the City of Elizabeth has been a tremendous supporter of the Run for the Children. It's this April 6th at 9 a.m. And what it does is it funds two very important initiatives in the City of Elizabeth for children. The first is for sexually abused children at the Union County Child Advocacy Center, and that's where half the funds go, and the other half goes for St. Clair's Home for Children and Infants with HIV, and Ms. Zeeland can address that as well. What we use this money for is when a suspect is arrested for sexual abuse, it has a really profound impact upon the family. And what we use this money for is to stabilize rent, to pay back utilities, and to assist in costs that relate to counseling, and specifically emergency counseling after child's disclosed sexual abuse.
Well, this is a 12-year, and we do prizes and...
Mayor, this is tremendous. We have everything from pancakes to gift certificates to cash. Everybody gets something. We have a small run for little infants. Every child receives a medal. Everybody walks away with something, and it's a very, very festive and happy time.
Now, as the prosecutor in charge of these types of crimes, you work out of the Child Advocacy Center on Westfield Avenue, Elizabeth.
Yes.
Maybe tell our viewers exactly what would happen to a young girl or boy if they were came to that center or brought there. It looks like a home.
Absolutely. We have found through studies that were done in the 1990s that if children are in a more comfortable environment, they disclose more of what happened to them. So when DIFAS or the police or the hospital refers a child sexual abuse or child physical abuse case, they come to our home. It's a converted 3-story Victorian home. It looks just like your living room, and the children come to a special area where they're digitally recorded using anatomically correct drawings and anatomically correct dolls to demonstrate what happened to them. The purpose of this digital recording is so when we go to court, the child doesn't have to disclose again and again what's happened to them. We keep using this same tape again and again throughout the court process, and also makes it more comfortable for the child to disclose in a very private and quiet environment what happened to them.
So this way, defense attorneys can't beat up on 12-year-old kids and trick them and do things like that.
Absolutely.
They tell their story in a very honest way, like a 12-year-old would or an 8-year-old or whatever.
Just having a normal conversation with a parent or a neighbor or a trusted friend. What happens is very few of our cases go to court. We investigate over 250 a year, about 10 a year go to court. So most cases will either settle or in fact go to court. If they go to court, then they are subject to cross-examination. But if they don't go to court, for example, in the grand jury, the tape is just played to explain in detail, in very graphic detail, unfortunately, what happened to the particular child.
So most people will plead out.
Many do. Of course, we do have what's called Megan's Law now, and that is a disincentive or discourages people from pleading guilty. But we do have pleas based upon the child's account, so detailed.
Faye, not only does the Union County Child Advocacy Center benefit, but St. Clair's Home does, and you've been there for a number of years. Maybe you could tell us what St. Clair's Home does for young people here in our city.
Okay. Well, St. Clair's Home is a transitional home. We're an alternative to the hospital setting for children who are medically fragile. When we first opened our home, it was just children with AIDS, but we've expanded to care for medically fragile children. So it can be a child with autism, cerebral palsy, a child who's been physically abused. We see small children with big problems.
You deal with mostly children that are just born till 5 or 6 years old, though, right?
When we first opened our home, it was just to 6 years old, but now we'll take children up to the age of 12, but the majority of the children that we see are infants. And
it's that's what the home is geared for, correct?
That's right.
John, you said 250 cases a year. Is that
That's
strictly sexual abuse? Is that a combination of physical, child neglect, and sexual abuse?
The numbers are unfortunately quite high in Union County. There are about 250 children who are sexually abused. There are 900 children who rise to a level of criminal neglect where the Division of Youth and Family Services has to become involved to make sure a child's fed or clothed, and about 700 cases of physical abuse where a child is scarred or beaten or bruised such to the point that it's non-accidental and a school nurse or a police officer recognizes needs a referral to our center and to
now
division.
We've read an awful lot about DIFAS over the last couple of years with some cases in Newark and some things that happened there. How does that affect your relationship with DIFAS and the work that you do?
We have a wonderful DIFAS staff in Plainfield, Elizabeth, and Cranford. There are 3 districts in our county, but we have a very professionalized staff. DIFAS DYFS received a $125 million increase in their budget in 2004 as a result of a lawsuit that came out of the unfortunate deaths in Newark and Camden. What DYFS did at that point was lower caseloads of workers and assign one worker per family. That's helped workers to have continuity with families and address many of the underlying economic and social issues that families are experiencing. We have a very positive working relationship with DYFS. DYFS is part of what's called a multidisciplinary team. So DYFS works with the police, works with the prosecutors to see how we can have the best outcome for a particular family or child.
And Faye,
by the way, Mayor, we work with DYFS as well. And I believe that our home gives the individual worker the time they need to find the right placement so that a child isn't bounced from placement to placement.
And the Run for Children, it helps you out as well.
Oh, absolutely. You know, as was stated earlier, it's the 12th year, and in these difficult economic times, we really depend on the support that we've received through the years. So as you know, when you have a multidisciplinary approach, any change can be like a domino effect and affect all of your programs and everything you attempt to do. So we're delighted that the Run for the Children has been something that we can count on through the years.
And volunteers, you work with volunteers?
Absolutely, absolutely. Volunteers make all the difference, as you can imagine, because our home is very much a home. Some people come expecting to see a little mini clinic, but we want a real home-like environment, and that's where the volunteers come in. They allow us to give that special time, that one-on-one time, where a volunteer can read story number 3 at bedtime. It makes all the difference.
Now, do you deal with volunteers in your business, or that's real tough to do?
We have certain ethical restrictions.
Right.
We wouldn't be allowed to have volunteers. We do have college interns, though, that come from Seton Hall, Rutgers, and Newark through the School of Social Work and also through the Sociology and Political Science Department. So if we have a volunteer who's for credit, we can do that, but there are certain restrictions
Now,
that are caseload.
do they actually sit in on the interview with the young person, or
They're
not allowed
permitted
to do that?
No, that's a court event, and we don't want to have any issues about the information that they learn. So they would assist in more of a clerical
Make sure
capacity.
they don't tell anybody what they've learned or what they've heard in that interview.
Prior to the presentation to the grand jury, that matter is secret, so no one else outside of the investigator and the prosecutor assigned to the case would have access to that type of information.
Okay. And volunteer, go ahead.
We do ask if a volunteer is going to work with us that they be ready to give a 6-month to a year commitment, because as you can imagine, our children are dealing with a lot of transition, a lot of change. So if you're going to have direct care, it's a whole process. There's a training process. You know, you have to go through fingerprinting and what have you. So we really ask people to come with a serious commitment.
And Faye, what are some of the other programs of the AIDS Resource Foundation for Children?
Okay, well, we have an after-school program for children who are infected and affected by HIV, AIDS, and that's for children from 7 to 17. And we also have a summer camp, so we'd like to spread the word about that. It's really like a summer retreat. If there are people in the Union County area who are dealing with HIV who might be interested in coming to our retreat in the summer, we often make special provisions, a certain number of slots for Union County.
And how can people learn more about your work?
Well, they can contact us. Our website is www.aidsresource.org, or they can call 973-643-0400.
And John, if someone needs to report child abuse or sexual abuse,
Sure.
how would they call, or who would they contact?
The Division of Youth and Family Services runs a number 1-877-NJ-ABUSE 24/7, 365. We receive all those phone calls for Union County.
That are in Union County. I want to thank the two of you for joining us on the show this evening and for the fine work that you do in our community.
Well, thank you for your
Thank you,
support.
Rick.
I
Thanks
look
for
forward to
supporting
seeing you
me.
at the Run for Children.
Thank you, Mayor, for your support over these many years.
Absolutely.
For John Esmerado and Faye Zeeland, I'm Chris Bolwage. We'll see you next week on another edition of Our City.